Ben Lewis, I have known, the first time I heard him was, he was accompanying Typhanie Monique. I had a jazz series at another place, and Typhanie is one of our guest vocalists this evening, so you'll be able to hear her in a little bit too. Yeah! Along with Matt Lewis, Ben's brother, so his twin brother. So this is going to be such a fun night. But the first time I heard Ben, he was accompanying Typhanie, and I had known Typhanie before, and I was thrilled to have her come and perform for us. And this piano player walked in, I went, holy mackerel, who is this guy? How could I never have heard of him before? And I've been following him ever since. I'm a huge fan of Ben's. And so every time he comes here, he does something pretty remarkable and pretty unique. And so in preparation for this one, and he's a very sweet and thoughtful guy, and before this one, we were chatting a little bit, and he had been thinking about, and I'm sure he'll tell you the story, I don't want to steal his thunder, but he was thinking about the concept of time and how we, at different times in our lives and different experiences, we experience time differently. Man, I don't know if you've ever been in a car accident. Thankfully, I've never been in a serious one, but I've been in the kind of fender bender things where suddenly everything slows down. And other times when you're, having a good time and all of a sudden, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock already? And so music, it seems, can often kind of have that effect on us, where it freezes a moment for us, or it propels us to another moment in time. And so he was thinking a lot about that and wanted to prepare an evening of music all on the topic of time. So I'm not going to get any further into this. I'm going to let him describe where that took him. But that was the starting point, and when he explained that story to me, I thought, yeah, absolutely go with that. My mind was racing right from the start, and so I'm excited to see what he is going to bring for us. This is going to be Ben Lewis on the piano, Jeremiah Hunt on the bass, and Jon Deitemyer on the drums. It's the Ben Lewis Trio, and please give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before I get into my lecture, I want to take a second to introduce this band. Please put your hands together for Mr. Jon Deitemyer on the drums. Let's welcome Jeremiah Hunt on the bass. My name's Ben, and I'm so pleased to see, well, I can't see all of you. You're very shadowed in the dark, but I know some familiar faces. Hi, Marianne. Are here, and when Steve asked me to come back here, I was really excited just to play, and thought, well, I could come here and just play some tunes, and that would be great. But it was my wife's birthday in March, and I made this card for her, and it was kind of talking about time and the passage of time, and then I was driving to work the next day, and I thought, wow, that might be an interesting show. So I called Steve, and it was a very, I don't know if the word is fortuitous, but it had just happened that just a week or two before that, they'd had a dance performance here on that exact same concept. So he was very interested in what I would do, as was I, because it took me a while to figure that out. But the more I thought about it, really, some interesting concepts come out. So I'm going to be talking a lot more than I normally would, but I want to get to the music. And that, of course, was a standard by Sammy Kahn and Jules Stein. It was Time After Time. I can't take credit for the arrangement. That was a Benny Green arrangement that I was listening to a few nights ago and stayed up way too late working on. But I was really pleased to get the chance to play with these guys. So, like I said, we could just play tunes. We could play plenty of songs with the word time in the title, right? I could name a dozen. But the more I thought about it, I wanted to think a little bit outside the box and think about how we look at time and how that can be reflected musically. So I had a great talk with my wife where we talked about time, and she brought up the obvious where, as human beings, we think of time in the micro. We think of, how long we live, 80, 70, 80, 90 years, and that's sort of a span of time we can kind of comprehend. But when you think about how old the Earth is and how old the universe is and the vastness of space, it starts to blow our minds. It's very hard to conceptualize, really, the vastness of time. And, my wife is a scientist, as you'll hear more about later, but, she mentioned that, astrophysicists and paleontologists and, people in anthropology, they look at time in the micro, going back to the age of the dinosaurs, and they're able to look at things in the big picture like that. So in the spirit of that, I'd like to play a song that I wrote for my son, River, who is going to be a paleontologist when he grows up. And in theory, he's really into it. He knows his dinosaurs. So this is called River's Song. Thank you. I'm really was excited about the timing of this concert because my brother is in town, and my wonderful fraternal twin moved to Colorado this last year, and he still commutes back and forth. He still works in Chicago, but he loves the mountains. He loves his skiing, and he loves just the atmosphere there, and it's where he is feeling his home. So when Steve offered me this date, I called Matt and said, "Hey, are you going to be around?" And we actually have a gig tomorrow night, so it worked out that he could be here. So I'm so excited to introduce you to my brother, Matt, somewhere. So this next song does have time in the title, and this is a song written by the great Leonard Bernstein, and this is called Some Other Time. And I think in the actual movie or play or musical this was written for, it's about some sailors who meet some ladies and they have a good time, but then they kind of run out of time and they have to leave. And so if you listen to the words, you can think of that. I think the message is, so much of in our lives we think about timing, right? Like I met my wife checking my MySpace account and she happened to see my profile and that's how we met. But what if, what if it's not weird at all? Not at all. So this is before a lot of things. But, think about the timing of that. What if I had waited longer to start a profile or something, or just there's so many things factor into what what happens in our life that come down to timing and luck. And yes, Matt.
I love what you said.
Thank you.
I was thinking about this song too, because for me, songs have oftentimes specific memories associated with them. And I remember the first time I heard this song, you were playing at Pete Miller's Jazz Club with Jim Kamak, 20 years ago.
Oh.
And I heard the song, I never heard it before, and it was just them playing instrumentally, but I fell in love with the melody. And it touched me. And then I found recording with
Tony Bennett and Bill Evans is very famous.
And we had a conversation about what the song means.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it about when somebody passes away? Is it about,
And I want to play the song now, but but there's the idea that we can only go forward, right? We can't go back. So definitely, you'll just listen to the words. I think you'll come up with your own meaning. I'm not going to tell you what to think. So this is Some Other Time.
Haven't done half the things we want to. Oh well, we'll catch up some other time. This day was just a token. Too many words are still unspoken. Oh well, we'll catch up some other time. Just when the fun is starting, comes the time for parting. But let's be glad for what we've had and what's to come.
There's so much more embracing. Still to be done, my dear, but time is wasting. Oh, well, we'll catch up some other time. Just when the fun is starting, comes the time for parting. But let's be glad for what we've had and what's to come. There's so much more embracing, still to be done, my dear, but time is wasting. Oh, well, we'll catch up some
Yeah, Matt. Okay, bringing the band back, and I think we'll have a surprise, I think, for this next song. I'm not going to give it away now. Yes. I don't know if you've ever read Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I think back in high school maybe I had to read one of his books, but I started hearing all these quotes by Emerson, and just amazing stuff. And one of the simple ones I like a lot is, for every 60 seconds, or for every minute you spend being angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. I like the quotes like that. Are so simple, but they just kind of, register. So I want to do some songs about happiness. And it's my show, so I can do whatever I want. So we're going to start here with a little When You're Smiling and see what happens.
you're smiling, oh, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, well, that sun keeps shining on through. But when you're crying, it brings on the rain. So baby, keep smiling and be happy again. When you're smiling, oh, when you're smiling, well, the whole world smiles with you.
Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm blue. My disposition depends on you. I'll never mind that rain from the sky if I could find that sun in your eye. Sometimes I love you, sometimes I hate you. But when I hate you, it's 'cause I love you. That's how I am, so what can I do? I'm happy when I'm with you. I don't know how you love me. Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm blue. My disposition depends on Matt Lewis. I'll never mind that rain from that sky. Oh, if I could find that sun in your eye. Sometimes I love you, sometimes I don't. But when I don't, it's 'cause I love you. That's how I am, so what can I do? But when you're smiling, but when you're smiling, but when you're smiling with you.
Let's hear it from Matt Lewis.
Typhanie Monique.
Yes, now I can introduce Typhanie Monique, who a lot of you know. Typhanie is a dear, dear friend, and I'm so happy that she's here to make music with me, with the band, and for you. And I got to go to my
Script.
My script, yes. Okay, so as I was driving to work and thinking about time, one of the things that occurred to me is, songs, they have the ability to act like a time machine, right? We can hear a song on the radio or at a club, and it just, like that, takes us back to a moment in our childhood or the day before. I mean, but I think about the past especially, how those special moments in our lives, or difficult moments too, can become sort of entwined or connected with a song. And so I thought, well, I'll put out a word and say, hey, anybody want to request a song or two, and I would then arrange or perform them for them, assuming they bought a ticket. So I thought it was good incentive, but also I love taking requests. I love when I'm playing anywhere just to ask the audience what they want to hear, because it gives us the opportunity to either play a song we haven't played for many years, or just try to do it in a different way. So very excited to perform this song. This was a request by a good friend, Bob and Liz Grow, really old friends of mine from church days, and just good family friends. And I'm going to just read what he wrote to me about this song. It wasn't until 2 months after our marriage, 41 years ago, that we had some real time on our own, a short trip to Vail, Colorado. One evening, relaxing in the lounge of the Vale Lodge, we heard a piano and vocal rendition of what has been our song ever since. So this is Send in the Clowns. And Tiffany, you want to share?
I'll share a little.
Yeah.
So when Ben asked me to perform this, it took me back in time because this was the big debut song for me, my senior year talent show in high school. I had the gown and everything. But I really fell in love with Barbra Streisand's version. And the thing that haunted me about that song was the oboe. And I have not sung this song since high school. But it is beautiful, and so talk about taking me back in time. And the one thing that I will say is, usually I hide out in the green room, but tonight I decided to enjoy the concert. And it's such a pleasure to listen to such amazing souls, and musicians make really great music, so let's hear it for this band. Isn't it rich? Are we a pair? Me here at last on the ground, you in midair. Send in the clowns. Isn't it bliss? Don't you approve? One who keeps tearing around, one who can't move. But where are the clowns? Send in the clowns just when I start opening doors, finally knowing the one that I wanted was yours. Losing my entrance again with my usual flair. Sure of my lies, no one is there. Don't you love farce? My fault, I fear. Losing this time in this late in my career. But where are the clowns? Quick, send in the clowns. Don't bother, they're here.
just when I stopped opening doors, finally knowing the one that I wanted was yours, making my entrance again with my usual flame, sure of my lines, no one is there. Isn't it rich? Isn't it queen? Losing my time in this late in my career, but where are the clowns? There ought to be clowns. Well, maybe next year.
Typhanie Monique. Let's see. Trying to think my time here. I think we're gonna close out this first set with one more song, and this is a kind of a fun one, and this is the fun fact part of the show. About the year 1500 BC. I'm thinking of my kids. They're okay. Never mind. BC, in the ancient Egypt, or this is in the tomb of a pharaoh Amenhotep. They found two different sort of timepieces. One was let's see, forget this. One was just a sundial, right? We're used to that. Another one was called a water clock. I have no idea what a water clock is, but the point is both of them were related to the number 12. So back then in ancient Egypt, they had this concept of 12, dividing up the day, the sun, and the moon. So we don't often think about that, right? Like, why do we have 12 hours or 24 hours in a day? Well, they had it figured out. But that's how a lot of people told time. They thought about the sun's up or the moon's up. And then I thought about Sesame Street. And this is going to go over the heads of some people here, but for me, I remember a song, a very specific song, involving pinball. Yeah, okay, you got it. So I've never, I sometimes will play it if I'm playing gigs somewhere, and I'll kind of throw it in there. But I thought, well, why not actually play the song? And it turns out it was an interesting composition. I'm not sure who the actual composer was, but they got a bunch of, I think, San Diego jazz musicians together, and they got the Pointer Sisters, and they made this song. I'm not going to sing it, but I'm going to ask Matt and Typhanie to come back. They're going to be on hand to help you, because this is the group participation part of the show. And there's no scatting, there's nothing complicated. You just have to think of a number. Actually, I'm going to look at my clock right now. My phone. All right, so it is, 9:06. Perfect. Okay, so we have three numbers to remember. 906.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got that.
Now on the pinball version of this song, they didn't use the number 0, but we're gonna allow it. So there's a particular point in the song where you're just going to shout out as loud as you can the number 9, and then the next time we get there, the number 0, and the number 6. Should we practice?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, ready? Let's start with 9. Ready?
9!
Oh my God, this is going to be awesome. All right.
I don't think you need us, Ben.
All right.
Yeah, I don't either. But we'll stay up.
Yeah, just
We'll-
kind of
we'll
like
just-
point.
Yeah, we got it. We
Yeah,
got it.
you don't have to be
We
like
don't
right
need
there.
to be in the mic.
All right, so this is. Pinball Numbers Count is the name of the song. Yeah, great. 1, 2, 1, 2. Typhanie Monique Matt Lewis, Jon Deitemyer on the drums, Jeremiah Hunt on the bass.
And that's Ben Lewis.
That's me.
Ben Lewis, 9, 6. Thanks very much. We're going to take a short break. We'll actually, at the top of the second set, I come back and I talk to Ben a little bit. We'll have a little conversation. It's all part of the radio show. Please do stick around. The bar is now open. Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here with Ben Lewis. We have been thinking about, or I've been thinking about this for a long time, and we talked about it. And you had this idea, and it was so fortuitous because we really just had, prior to our conversation, Ben was not kidding when he said this earlier in the set, that we had just done a dance performance, a youth dance performance, and it was all on the subject of time. And so one of the women who was artistic directors of that dance ensemble said that she had done some research and there are more songs about time than there are about love. Which I thought that was pretty interesting statistic or fact. But it was a very interesting way that you sort of came about this thought to do this concert about time. And I'm wondering, I know that you have gone through some pretty major life experiences in the last couple of years. Was it a year and a half ago that
About 2 years.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Ben had a major accident, and it was quite dire, and we're thrilled that he's back to 100%. But I'm wondering if any of the way that you perceive time or the way you think about time is changed at all since that experience. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
It's probably the only time in my life where I kind of I lost time because I woke up in the hospital. And it's like, wow, how did I get here? And for those of you who don't know, I had an accident falling off my roof onto my driveway, and I don't recall the accident, but I know that it happened because I woke up in the hospital and spent a month there, and then recovering after that. And so yeah, there's a whole lot I could talk about that experience. But as far as time goes, the obvious one is that when we have a near-death experience, we think about the moments in our lives that we spend and how we use them, because we don't know how long we're going to have them.
Right.
So that was the big takeaway, I suppose, from that, is just helped remind me what's important, and to really try to take every second of the day and appreciate it. And that's the biggest thing I think I could draw from the experience.
Well, I have never had a near-death experience, but I have lost people who are close to me, and whenever that has happened, it has served to remind me how precious every moment is, and that you don't get these moments back. And there are a finite number of times that you're going to sit down to dinner with your dad or whatever. There are, in the end, they're really you can count them, and so the preciousness of time and the way we think about time is really gets colored, at least for me, with heavy thoughts like that. Although one of the things I love about your playing, and I said this in my newsletter, was that how playful you are with time. I don't know if the rest of you are sort of thinking about it the way I am, but when there's a steady tempo going along and Ben is in and out and back and forth, in and around it, it really is like you are bending time, and it is so. I love the way that you control that. Is that a conscious thing for you, or is that just something that just kind of happens?
Something I meant to mention earlier is, like, with time, there's time signatures in jazz or in music. 4/4, 5/4, 7/4, 13/8, 13.5/8. There's all kinds of different ways. So an easy way to play with a song and change it is to just change the time. So I like to do "What a Wonderful World," But if you put it in 5, it still works, but it's different. Yes, wow. I agree. I love that song. But what a quote I like is by Mozart, where he said, "The music is not in the notes, but in the space between." So that's another thing I thought of. A lot of times when we play as jazz musicians, there's improvisation, right? But we're playing in a club, or we're playing even just a corporate or a wedding or something, where you don't have a feeling, or even a recording session where you don't have a feeling like you can take all the time you want. You sort of, okay, I gotta fit all my notes in. I only got 3 choruses here, and then I gotta stop.
Right.
Even playing publicly, you feel, the audience is gonna get bored. So with that first song, I try to keep that in mind and use space, and it's the best way, I think, to connect with a listener and an audience.
You're talking about Time After Time?
The
first piece,
right,
you played,
not
yes.
Cindy Lauper, but the first song, yes.
Yeah, right.
You're not going to hear Cindy tonight. But yeah, but even just generally when I play, I try to remember that the less I play, the more I can say, I suppose. But as far as messing with phrasing, and that's just fun, and I just enjoy that. And if you work with the right musicians or the right band, you can take more and more liberties with that.
Yes.
You have to really be mindful of who you're playing with.
There's a lot of trust.
As I was about to say, there's a lot of trust involved, because if it's someone who doesn't trust you, they're going to think you're lost. They're going to think you dropped a beat or something. But if there's that unspoken trust, you can really just have a lot of fun.
Or they're going to jump to fill the space. Yep, which, may be right, but...
They might, and that's fine.
Right. That kind of goes in a direction that I didn't expect to go, but how about composition? I mean, I don't want to make this about me, but I make most of my living as a composer, and for me, composition a lot of times is I spit out an idea, and then I start pulling things away until I'm left with the essence of the idea. It's more about subtraction than addition for me. And I'm wondering if you think if that's, what you're describing as an improviser seems to be somewhat along the same lines, looking for the spaces, looking for the empty spots. Do you feel the same way compositionally? Because I know you also write.
Yeah, I go through the same process, and composing is sort of a new bag, as we say in the lingo, a new bag for me, where, yeah, you find that, oh, I don't really need this many notes, and you try to distill it to its purest form, I suppose, that still gets the message across, and kind of comes down to really the harmony and the melody and the rhythm and having them all work together. And if there's too much of one, it I think can detract, that's the word,
Sure.
From what you're trying to say.
Do you find that you play quite a bit differently depending on who you're playing with?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, especially with vocalists, who I work with a lot of great singers and great vocalists here in Chicago and around, and everyone's different. And it's always exciting for me that first time you work with a singer, because you don't know. For example, the thing about trust, you don't know how much can I change the chords, how much can I play with what I'm doing where they're gonna not panic or think that I'm not supporting them. So, and Typhany's great because, and Typhanie and Matt, because there's a chemistry, there's a musical chemistry, and where you can really, just anything can happen, and that's the most exciting thing about improvisation, I think, that sense of possibility every time you play.
Yeah, it's very much, I mean, it looks very much like improvisational comedy, is it kind of the yes and. You know,
I love humor, yeah.
Yeah, somebody throws something out there. All right, now we're dealing with that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
If I can make people laugh and cry and drink during a show.
Is there a particular order?
Just not in that order. That's great, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're firing on all cylinders tonight, without a doubt. I don't want to spend too much time up here because I'd love to get back to some more music, but I just got to say, this is such a treat for us. Bea and I have both been looking forward to this for a long time, and we're thrilled that you're here, thrilled that you're back.
Thank you.
And with a stellar group of musicians and these fine singers, it's really great. So thanks so much, Ben. Ben Lewis.
Okay, thank you for sticking around. Let's welcome back Jon Deitemyer and Jeremiah Hunt. So for this first song, I wanted to take the opportunity to pay tribute to someone who just passed away. And, his name was Frank Caruso, and I don't know how many of you know him, but he's a great pianist in Chicago, and I did not know him very well personally. I think we maybe only met one time, perhaps. But Frank just passed away about 2 days ago, I think, and a lot of people were very shocked. He was about 71 years old and had some health problems, but no one saw it coming. And that happens sometimes, right? We lose someone unexpectedly, and then we think about all the things we should have said, or all the time we wish we'd spent with them. And for me, I just have seen the outpouring of love for him. And before I play this song, I wanted to share one story about Frank. Is that when I was in recovery out of the hospital and I had some surgery and was pretty much in a lot of pain and discomfort, he called me while I was in the waiting room of my doctor, and was kind of surprised, and we just talked for a while. And he talked about pain and recovery, and he was going through his own things, and just shared with me his take on how to approach it and what would help. And it was really wonderful. It was a really wonderful talk, and I was really grateful that he took the time to do that. And that's the last time I spoke to him. And if I could go back in time, I would go hear him play and get together with him and have a drink. And so I wanted to play a song in tribute to Frank. And this is a song that he recorded with Eddie Gomez and Bob Rummage, a great Chicago drummer, called Django. And it was written by pianist Jon Lewis of the Modern Jazz Quartet. And it was written as a tribute to Django Reinhardt, who was a great Belgian jazz guitarist who had passed away. And Jon wrote this song about a year later in tribute to Django Reinhardt. And it's a beautiful song. So I wanted to play this song for Frank. time for another request. So this is from my good friend Michael, Mike at Ace Hardware. Go to Ace Hardware a lot. It's right near my house. And he came up with a really interesting request, another song that I had not heard actually, and it's called All Di La. And for them, I think this is, we all have, a lot of couples, I should say, have a song, right? This is our song. My wife and I have our song. Other people have their song. This is their song. And it's from a movie called Roman Holiday, which I have not seen, but I did see it on a little clip on YouTube. And it's a really quite a nice little song. So I'm not going to do any fancy arrangements with this. I'm not going to sing it. But I'm going to play it for Mike. And this is called All Di La. If you know the words and feel like singing, I don't care. That's good. But I do like just the simplicity of this song. I like songs that are just pure and simple and nice. So I will just mention, I had a lot of deep thoughts I wanted to share, but with love songs and with songs that have that meaning for us, I think they can be like a time machine, right? They can, when we're having a problem, when we're having maybe an argument, or just a rough time in your life, just playing a song that has that meaning for you can fix it, right? It can take you out of whatever sorrow you're feeling or whatever anger you're feeling, and bring you to a special moment in your life that has that power. So this is All Di La. All right. Yeah, did you like that, John?
Yeah, I did.
1, 2, 3. In case you're wondering what al-Dilab means, it means like to the beyond or something. It's about a man who loves this woman so much. It's like just beyond the stars, beyond the universe. That's how much. So, hi, honey. So, I'd like to move to really a special song. I think that we're going to skip ahead, guys. So I'm going to bring Matt and Typhanie back here somewhere. Yeah. And I was a little uncertain about doing this song because it's a 90s pop song, and wasn't, yeah. I wasn't sure how it would work really, but then I remembered who I'm working with, and I thought, oh, of course it'll work. So this is a song. It's one of those songs that I think has deep meaning for a lot of people for reasons that you'll hear. It's called "The Living Years," and by a band called Mike and the Mechanics. And yeah. So if you don't know the song, that's okay, because listen to the words and let it speak to you. If you do know the song, you'll know what it's about. But you know, I in talking with Steve, we talked about, you know, my experience and how it kind of just reminded me to really understand that, you know, you don't know how much time you're going to have. And so I think a lot of that resonates when our parents get older and we think about, boy, have I said everything to them that I should? Because, but that same rule, that same thought really should apply to anyone in your life. Your friends, your brother, your pets. I don't know. I just no, but no. I mean, really, especially I think your friends, because you just don't know what time you have left with them. So I think it's important to be truthful and to not waste time saying things. So this is our take, I suppose, on the living years. Let me get my music.
Every generation blames the one before, and all of their frustrations come beating on your door. I know that I'm a prisoner to what my father held so dear. I know that I'm a hostage to all his hopes and fears. I just wish I could have told him in the living years.
Yeah, man. Crumpled bits of paper filled with imperfect thought, stilted conversations. I'm afraid that's all that we've got. You say you just don't see it. You says it's perfect sense. You just can't get agreement in this present tense. We all talk a different language, talking in the
too late.
Said it's too late.
When we die.
Said it's too late when we die.
To admit
We don't see eye to
So we open up a quarrel between the present and the past. We only sacrifice the future. It's the bitterness that lasts.
So don't you to the fortune to sometimes see his fate. If we have a new perspective on a different day. If you don't give up and don't give in, you just may be okay.
So say it loud.
Say it loud, oh.
Say it clear.
Won't you say it clear?
Oh, you can listen, you can listen. Well, as
You hear?
it's too late.
Said it's too late, too late.
When we die.
We simply don't see eye to
I wasn't there that morning when my father passed away. I didn't get to tell him all the things that I had to say. I think I caught his spirit later that same year. I'm sure I heard his echo in my newborn baby's tears. I just wish I could have told him in the living years.
Thank you. To be clear, our father is still alive, and probably confused watching this later on YouTube as to why we're singing about him like he's gone. But I, in all seriousness, I do think about. I mean, he's getting up there. No, I'm laughing, but I do feel like when he does pass on, that this song will kind of wreck me a little bit, but kind of in a healthy way, I suppose. I mean, it has an important message. So, Dad, I love you. I'll say it to him in person too. It's just, so this is kind of a different concert. You may figure that out by now, but I'm going to do something a little bit I think is brave for me anyway. I'm going to have you hear a poem that I wrote. And this is a poem that came to me. I'm poetic. I like to write cards. I like to write poetry. It kind of comes to me in the moment, I suppose. But for me, this moment was driving back from a visit to my old college town in Bloomington, Indiana. And it was early morning, and I stopped at a gas station. There was this really brilliant sunrise sky, and kind of the words started coming to me, and I started driving, and eventually pulled over to write this. And I want to bring up my beautiful wife, Abigail. This is our first performance. This is our first duo. Yeah. But, in thinking about time, we had talked about the macro and the micro, and part of the macro is looking at, how long humans have been on this earth. And Jon actually showed me a neat graphic where if you took the lifespan of the earth, which is about 4.5 billion years, and you narrowed it down to 24 hours, the amount of time that humans have been on that time scale is about 1 second, the last second of that day. And it's hard to think about, but my wife, when we were sitting on the couch trying to come up with ideas for this time and thinking about it, she mentioned, what if humans lived as long as redwood trees? Would we treat our planet better? Would we take more care with how we treat it? And I think that's a good way to look at it. But it got me thinking about climate change, and I think that climate change and what's happening is one of the most important issues of our time. My time, yeah. And more importantly, our kids' time. We got 2 young boys who are going to grow up in this world, and things are looking not great. And luckily, we have people like Abigail, my wife. I think I keep saying that. And she works at the Field Museum in Chicago. She's a great job there as a senior conservation scientist there. So she's well versed in, yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. And so, we're running out of time. This is the moment to take action, and it's hard because I think we look at the politics of our day, and I'm not going to get too political here. I could, but I won't. But it really is. It's frustrating to see what's happening with our lawmakers and our decision makers, and we're not going in the right direction, and we are running out of time. I think it's also interesting when I look at my friends, and we look on Facebook, right? It's this illusion of connectivity that we have that it's not real. And people are far more disconnected than I think they've been in a long time. And what we need is connectiveness, I think, to fight this fight. And so this poem is written sort of about that sense of isolation we have and how do we find hope. And I'm going to have Abby say the words while I create something underneath. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my poetry.
In this fair moment, the rising sun is all I care to know. Its radiance and lengthy grin, shifting all that is aglow. And yet, there's mockery in its shine, a brutal, honest truth, that we would deign to care for our home in the petulance of our youth. The only hope I see now rests gently in the eyes of a child who'll grow knowing that we've been anything but wise. This he or she, this blessed host, is who we must hold dear. Teach them empathy to challenge the status quo. Show them otherness is not something to fear. The white and blue of morning dawn now grasps the wetness
of my eyes. I'm thinking of the lives I've lost, and I come to realize that we simply cannot, please, please, must not waste another speck of time. Being selfish and alone, afraid to honor the sublime connection that we share as human spirits on this earth. Glimpse through the haze of this murky time and believe in what you're worth. Hold my hand. Feel my heart. That pulse is what unites us. So we must take each breath and smile toward the future that invites us.
Abigail Derby Lewis. Got time for just a couple more here. I did this song the last time I performed here, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to do it one more time. But talking about my accident, and this is a song that, for me, is a time machine. It brings me back to what I went through, but also takes me through, I think, the journey that it was, which is kind of darkness into the light. So this is a song about moments, and this is called In the Moment. If you'll indulge, we have one last song for you, which is just really the perfect end to this night, this theme, and it was recorded by the great Shirley Horn, and I almost said Shirley MacLaine. I always do that, but Shirley MacLaine is great. But this is just a tremendously beautiful recording if you can find it. It's just got a whole string orchestra, and the way she sings it, and the words that carry with it are really speak volumes to what I think I was trying to say tonight. And I'm grateful that Tiffany's here to perform it. So let's hear it one time again before we play this. Let's hear it for Jon Deitemyer, Mr. Jon Deitemyer on the drums. Jeremiah Hunt on the bass. Matt Lewis, vocals. And, of course, Typhanie Monique. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody.
Can I just say one thing about this tune?
Sure.
So, Here's to Life. This was, if you don't know this recording, the album is entitled Here's to Life, Shirley Horn. All the arrangements are by Johnny Mandel. It was produced by a gentleman by the name of Richard Seidel. And Shirley Horn was a jazz singer, took a break. I think she worked in a post office, had a family, and then returned to the scene much later. And Richard Seidel discovered her and was like, we've got to make a record. And the beauty and poetry and, I think the thing that I love about Shirley and what I tell my students is that she is a true balladeer. She's not afraid to do adult tempos, as we say, right? Just slow, beautiful, thoughtful, and tempos, ballads. And for me, when I listen to Shirley, I think the thought or the feeling that comes to me is that she makes me feel safe. And I think as humans, we all want to feel that way. And that connection, and she whispers in your ear. So I've never performed this song, but I'm really honored to do so because I idolize Miss Horn, and I'm really happy to sing this song for you all.
And I'm going to feel safe by wearing my readers.
Do it. I approve. No complaints and no regrets. I still believe in chasing dreams and placing bets. But I have learned that all you give is all you get. So give it all you've got. I've had my share. I drank my fill. And even though I'm satisfied, I'm hungry still to see what's down another road beyond the hill, and do it all again. So here's to life, and every joy that it brings. So here's to life, to dreamers and their dreams.
funny how the time just flies. A love can go from warm hellos to sad goodbyes, and leave you with the memories you've memorized, and keep your winters warm. For there's no yes in yesterday, and who knows what tomorrow brings or takes away. As long as I'm still in this game, I wanna play for laughs, for life, for love. So here's to and every joy that it brings. Here's to love, to dreamers and their dreams. May all your storms be weathered, and all that's good get better. Here's to life. Here's to love. Here's to you. May all your storms be weathered, and all that's good get better. Here's to life. Here's to love. Here's to you.
Here's to life.
The Ben Lewis Trio with Typhanie Monique
Yeah.
Matt Lewis on the vocals, Jeremiah Hunt on the bass, Jon Deitemyer on the drums, and of course, the one, the only Ben Lewis. What a beautiful evening.